Hi there, my name's Alex Parry, so I'm the subject lead of computer science at Hills Road, and I'll be just talking through to you some of the bits of the course, how the course is formatted, what kind of skills we learn, and also some things sort of outside the course, like extracurricular and where students go to typically after Hills Road. So one of the questions we get asked a lot is why we should actually study computer science. Computer science is obviously a subject that's quite new, I suppose, compared to a lot of other subjects, but it's been taking off rapidly, and it's used in so many different industries now, where computer science can be applied, as well as sort of more typical things like software engineering. So it's a really good way just to learn these skills that can be applied to all sorts of things. So we're really looking at things like logic, rigor, and problem solving are some of the sort of key skills. And these can be transferred to all walks of life, so different subjects, different jobs, and just things in your daily life as well. Another thing to note is that the programming language that we use throughout the course is C#. Some of you may be familiar with that language, some of you won't be, and that's fine. So we'll go through the basics and then go on to the sort of more advanced stuff as well. When it comes to, we'll talk a bit about the programming project in a little bit, but you can choose another language at that stage as part of your coursework if you feel more comfortable. I really like this quote because it just epitomizes, I think, the different aspects of programming. So programming is the only job I can think of where I get to be both an engineer and an artist. And I think that speaks really nicely because programming is really creative, as well as being very sort of technical as well. And it really sort of pulls both of those things together. So the course is a mixture of both programming and non-programming topics. So there's a few examples on the right-hand side of some of the topics we cover. And it's quite nice because I think unlike perhaps with GCSE, if you did study that before, computer science, although you won't have had to study at A-level, I think with GCSE it more splits it very in two sort of halves, like programming and non-programming, and there's not much overlap. In A-level, we actually see a lot more overlap, so quite often some of the more theory topics that we'll be looking at, for example, encryption, we'll study different encryption algorithms, but then we'll actually go ahead and program that in C# as well, so you can actually see these links a lot more. So there's a lot of skills you'll gain. We talked about a few before, but some other things are things like analytical skills, problem solving skills. I think resilience is actually quite a strong one, especially with programming. You will end up really building up your resilience to, it's more often than not, your programs aren't going to work straight away. I'd say probably 99% of the time, they're not going to work straight away. And it will take a while just to kind of, try different things and kind of experiment. And it does really help sort of build up that kind of resilience, and you can, again, apply that to all different, areas, not just within computer science. There's different ways that we will support you as well in the course. So us as teachers will obviously support you during the lessons. There's other things we'll run like workshops where we'll have sort of smaller groups and sometimes maybe some one-to-one sessions. We also have some student mentors who are fantastic. So they are students that are currently at Hills Road studying computer science, and they will give you, some one-to-one support if you want it. And there's also sessions from Isaac Computer Science, which is an online platform for learning computer science. And they'll run these sessions throughout the year. They're mostly online. Sometimes they have some face-to-face events, and they're a really good way as they're run by master teachers, and they're a really good way of experiencing parts of the course in even more detail in a slightly different environment as well. So how you're actually assessed is it's broken into 3 parts. So there's 2 exams, 2 papers that you'll sit at the end of the second year, so the end of year 13. Paper 1 is 40%, and that is actually an exam that's on the computer. So you might not have done something like that before. Again, we'll do lots of practice of that, so you don't have to worry about it. And there'll be some sort of general questions as well as some programming activities, some smaller ones, and then a more comprehensive programming activity, building upon some code that you've already seen. So for that last bit in that paper, you will have seen all the code before, and we can sort of discuss questions that might come up, things like that. So you can go into it with a bit more preparation. Paper 2 is more like a typical paper test. Again, mixing things like computer systems and some other areas of computer science. And that again is 40%. And the last part, which is worth 20%, is the what we call the non-examined assessment, the NEA, which is basically a fancy way of saying coursework. So that's something that we will start towards the end of year 12, and you'll hand it in usually around sort of February in year 13. And that's a really good way for you to just sort of show off your programming skills. If you have done GCSE computer science, it's not like the NEA for that. It's more like, I'd say, doing maybe a module at university where you can come up with pretty much any idea you want, and then explore that. You can choose whichever language you want. Obviously we will guide you and help you so that you can get the best out of your project. But, that's really sort of down to you and to sort of, show your creativity. And again, we can show you like examples of projects that previous students have done as well. If you're, struggling to get ideas, that's fine. We can help you with that and help guide you. There's loads of different extracurricular activities that we run throughout the year. So there's a couple of examples in this slide. Robotics Club is something that we get quite a lot of computer science and physicist students and other students as well joining that. Actually being able to build a robot, the physical side, the hardware side of things, and then actually program it. And there's a few different competitions that we run around robotics. We've got Computer Science Society, esports, and then there's lots of events. So some of you may have heard of BEBRAS, which is a computing challenge. We actually, if you do well in that, there's another one that's called the Oxford University Computing Challenge, which is for people that did well in BEBRAS. And there's some local companies as well. So some of our students will get work placements. For example, there's one of them, Amdev, on the screen. We've also been talking to a games company recently called Frontier Developments, who are local to Cambridge and have done some quite well-known games in the past. And they're looking at ways that, we can hopefully get some students and work placements and get them in to just discuss like different job opportunities around the games industry and other sort of software engineering. Our student performance is generally really good, so we get really strong sort of A star to B results. So 57% is 10% above the national average, and a really high percentage of people that pass the course as well. And our students go on to lots of different destinations. I know quite a large chunk of that is onto higher education, but the university courses that people go into are really varied as well. Some are around computer science, some are different aspects of computer science. It might be game design, it could be things around sort of security, engineering. And then we get a whole other mixture of things where computer science helps, so things like mathematics, physics, and even I'd say more of like creative subjects as well. Photography, media, then having a nice computer science background can really help with those courses. Music technology, things like that. And then we're getting, I'd say, a sort of slow increase of people that go straight into employment or apprenticeships. And like I said, because we've got some, good connections with, local, both small companies and larger companies as well. Within Cambridge, then we can get some really good links with them and different sort of apprenticeship and employment opportunities. So I hope that was useful. That was a very brief go through of the computer science course at A level at Hills Road, and hopefully I'll see you at Hills Road soon.